water. It's a team from Toronto, Canada. We, the North, are now we, the champions.
What is going on, Raptors Nation? It is Luca here, back with another podcast. Hope you're all doing well. We are closing out the month of May. We got a lot to talk about. It is a busy time. There's been a lot of recent news that I want to touch on in today's pod. First, we're going to be taking a look at the whole Bruce Brown situation, as we've learned some new details regarding that. Then I'm going to be looking at Andrew Wiggins being linked to the Raptors yet again. And then finally, we're going to end with some draft talk, as the NBA draft, guys, it is fast approaching, less than a month away. Things are getting interesting. Of course, the Raptors have number 19 and number 31 in this year's draft. Before we dive right into it, guys, do me a solid. Hit a like on the video. It helps it a ton. And also subscribe over here at the Raptors Nation YouTube channel for all things Raptors. I do this pod every single Thursday, and I sprinkle in some other Raptors videos in between. All things Raptors, this is your place. So, yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into this. And we're first going to talk about the Raptors picking up, well, not officially, but it's been rumored, the Raptors picking up Bruce Brown's team option, as it is looking more and more likely that the Raptors are going to do just that. So we saw the report come out from Doug Smith. Now, recently, Hoops Hype's Michael Scotto put something out, again, echoing what Doug Smith said, that the Raptors reportedly expected to pick up Bruce Brown's team option for next season, as Brown is set to earn $23 million. The Raptors have up until June 29th, just after the NBA draft, to pick up Bruce Brown's team option. And this is what Michael Scotto said in his latest piece. The Toronto Raptors have several offseason items ahead, including figuring out how much restricted free agent Emmanuel Quickley will command on the market, whether to pick up Bruce Brown's $23 million team option, and whether to retain Gary Trent Jr. in free agency. Toronto is expected to exercise the $23 million team option on Brown, league sources told Hoops Hype, echoing a report from the Toronto Star. Doing so will make Brown a noteworthy trade chip in the final year of his contract for contending playoff caliber teams to monitor. Close quote. Doug Smith, as I mentioned, did put out a piece on the Toronto Star not too long ago, and he reported that the Raptors are likely to pick up the option, then turn around and trade the 27-year-old quickly rather than wait until the 2025 NBA trade deadline. Of course, the Raptors, they were trying to deal Bruce Brown at the 2024 trade deadline. It was reported that the Raptors were asking for a first-round pick in return. Couldn't get anything done. And now the Raptors have their sights set, it appears, on picking up that option and then flipping Brown, as we will see how this market opens up, because, you know, there are going to be contending teams who are going to be looking at Bruce Brown as a nice fit to their team as they look to make a postseason run. So the Raptors can certainly leverage that, hoping to get a nice package in return. I would think they would still want a first-round pick in return. That would be very, very ideal. That's something that I would want in this potential trade. Definitely draft compensation of some sort. So you look at the situation, guys. If the Raptors do indeed pick up Brown's team option, then it seems more likely that the Raptors won't be prioritizing cap space for the summer, because the Raptors declining Brown's option and then not bringing back Gary Trent Jr. would actually create a little less than $30 million in cap space this offseason. This is per Sports Illustrated's Aaron Rose. And if the Raptors do, you know, exercise that team option and they look to trade Bruce Brown, which is obviously going to be the plan here, you know, they would have to take on salary coming back, because it is very, very unlikely that the Raptors are going to be able to just shed Bruce Brown's, you know, $23 million on a team that is going to take it and not send anything back out. So it's going to come down to the money's going to have to work. And, you know, the teams that do have a lot of cap space, I doubt they're going to want to just eat up Bruce Brown's contract for next season. So the Raptors are going to have to do their due diligence here and try to figure out a trade that works. And, you look at the money here, it's going to be interesting to see what's even available for the Raptors to get a compelling offer back for Bruce Brown. But I do think the market is going to open up a bit. I do believe there's going to be contending teams that, have their sights set on a Bruce Brown. And we just saw the Denver Nuggets, right? I'm not saying Bruce Brown was the only reason why they ended up winning the championship last year, but he was a big piece. And we saw one of the biggest issues with the Nuggets during this year's playoff run, as they fell short in the second round to the T-Wolves, was their bench depth, their lack of bench depth. And obviously they had a guy in Bruce Brown who was a huge catalyst for them from off the bench. So a guy of Brown's skill set, definitely valuable on a team that is right there in terms of trying to win a chip. So hopefully things open up and hopefully the Raptors can get an ideal return on Bruce Brown. As the Raptors, they acquired Brown from the Indiana Pacers in that trade for Pascal Siakam on January 17th, a very underwhelming trade that the Raptors got back. They're hoping these picks pan out and cash in, because in terms of the players that they received back, Brown was basically the biggest player that they got back, and he's in all likelihood not even going to be on this team before the start of the next season. You look at Brown, average, with the Raptors, he did put up 9.6 points and 3.8 rebounds in 34 games, shot at 48.1% from the field and 31.7% from deep. Obviously, it was during a time where the Raptors knew their fate already. They weren't pushing for anything. They were just simply tanking away the ending of their season. So, yeah, Bruce Brown, this is a guy who I think would be a nice serviceable piece on a contender, and we'll see if the Raptors can get something of value for him. Speaking of potential trades for Bruce Brown, this is actually going to be a nice little segue to Bleacher Report's trade idea, which was released yesterday. Zach Buckley of Bleacher Report put out an article looking at one new trade idea for every NBA team. Really interesting article. Go check it out if you haven't already. And he suggests the Raptors trading Bruce Brown to the Golden State Warriors for yet another Canadian, Andrew Wiggins. Buckley said this: Brown made his way to Toronto as the primary salary fill in the Pascal Siakam deal, but the Raptors were never guaranteed to hang on to him for long. His name bounced around the rumor mill ahead of the deadline, and while he wasn't moved then, there's now an expectation he could be quickly traded after Toronto picks up his $23 million team option, per Doug Smith of the Toronto Star. The Raptors could try flipping him for a future-focused package of picks and or prospects, but maybe they sense a quick turnaround is doable with the Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley core. Maybe they'd be drawn to someone whom they simply plan on keeping longer than Brown. Wiggins, a Toronto native, could be that player, 29. He's a touch older than Toronto's nucleus, but he's only 2 seasons removed from being the second best player on a world champion. He could have more prime years in front of him, despite what his rocky 2023-2024 campaign might suggest. If Wiggins can bounce back, there's some bargain potential in a trade here, especially if the Warriors see Brown's expiring contract as enough of a return. So, I mean, Andrew Wiggins, always a name that seems to be linked to Toronto. Obviously, he's from here, and I feel like the American media, every time they see an opportunity to have a new Canadian join the Raptors, they jump all over it. I mean, this would be the 4th Canadian on the team. The Raptors obviously have Boucher, Barrett, Olynyk. Could you imagine them adding to their collection of Canadian talent with Andrew Wiggins? And then maybe even Zach Edey. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Raptors slowly assembling Team Canada here. Maybe they could get Shea as well. But no, when you look at this, guys, I mean, you look at the trade, it definitely works. The thing about this is, going back to what the Raptors reported asking price was around the trade deadline, and something that I would want back in a Bruce Brown trade, is the team prioritizing getting back draft capital. And when you look at the Warriors situation, they don't have their 2024 first-round pick. They do have all of their first-round picks after that, at least for the next couple of years. So, you would think that the Raptors would want a pick in return, because when you just look at this trade idea at face value, I'm not interested in a Bruce Brown, Andrew Wiggins trade. When I do look at a potential Bruce Brown trade, I do see them prioritizing prospects and picks. I mean, if the Raptors are going to do this, the Warriors better fork up a pick. The Raptors need some draft compensation back along with Wiggins, because you look at it, guys, the Raptors would be doing the Warriors a huge favor of taking on Wiggins' contract, because Wiggins is set to make $26 million for 2024, 2025, $28 million for 2025, 2026, and then $30 million for 2026, 2027. So it really is a bad contract to take on. So if the Raptors do him a favor there, the Warriors better dish over some draft compensation, or else if it's just 1 for 1 year, yeah, I'm not interested. You look at the Raptors, there's going to be a lot of interesting things that this team's got to figure out. Obviously, the Emmanuel Quickley thing, they're going to have to lock him up. He's a restricted free agent. He's going to get paid. And then, this Bruce Brown situation. Hey, maybe you're a fan of this. Do you want to see Andrew Wiggins on the Raptors? Is this something you would want to see, guys? Let me know your thoughts down below. We will see what happens with the whole Bruce Brown situation. But until then, we got the draft to get through. The NBA draft is June 26th. 27th, first ever 2-day event. And I just wanted to go over the latest of what's kind of been put out there, via mock drafts, what the chatter has been about. And really, it's a very interesting draft as a whole. I want to say this. It's not like years past where you knew, okay, like you had a good idea of who's going where. Like things are changing. And I think things are going to continue to change. Obviously, you see teams now working out some of these prospects. It's very unpredictable. I think a lot is going to change as we go into the draft and even on draft night. And you look at the Raptors, number 19 will be their first round pick. They got number 31, which is their second round pick, but it's going to be cool because they're actually going to open up day 2 with the first pick, as the NBA is now going the NFL route with a multi-day draft. So you look at number 19 first, guys. There's a lot of names that have been linked to the Raptors. I did a separate piece on it. Not much has changed in terms of who I like at that spot. Go check out that video if you haven't already. Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report put out his latest mock draft, and once again, he has the Raptors taking arguably the most intriguing prospect of this year's draft, Canadian Zach Edey. So in his latest Bleacher Report mock draft, had Edey to the Raptors at 19. This week's, which just dropped today, time of this recording, May 30th, he has the Raptors snagging Edey again. So Edey, man, there's a lot of buzz with Edey potentially being a Raptors draft pick here. This is what Wasserman said in his latest mock draft, and I quote, "At least Zach Edey may have opened scouts' imaginations at the combine with the comfort level he demonstrated making jump shots during drills, regardless for a center who measures just under 7'4", the near 7'11" wingspan. His touch and footwork have gotten sharp enough for scouts to picture a useful low post scorer, an offensive rebounder. Teams deeper up front will look elsewhere. So will those who question how playable he'll be defensively in the playoffs. He'll be enticing to teams looking to add more size, physicality around the basket, and interior offense." So you look at Edey, again, this isn't the first time that he's been projected to go at this number 19 spot. The biggest question about Edey's game is, if his game is going to translate to the NBA level. Wasserman compared him to Jonas Valanciunas, a big who the Raptors drafted once upon a time ago. And the biggest thing about Edey is his jump shooting. He's shown an ability to, hit his jump shots during these workouts. And honestly, if Edey can develop that part of his game, he could end up being a huge grab for whichever team takes him. You look at Edey, does most of his damage inside. He's got compelling size. He does have, question marks that Wasserman pinpoints. But, there's obviously upside there. And there's obviously a world where this dude can pan out and end up being a very big get for whichever team takes a chance on him. And it's crazy because, you saw Edey as a second-round pick. For the longest time, he was projected to go in the second round. And now his stock continues to rise. And, being around this, call it 15 to 25 range, the Raptors are going to be in the middle of that with an opportunity to have Edey still on the board by the time they make their first round pick. So I said it in a previous video. My status hasn't changed, to be honest. I wouldn't take Edey with number 19. I think there are a lot more compelling prospects the Raptors can take at the spot. If Edey somehow falls to 31, which it's looking more and more likely he won't, I would use number 31 on Edie. But look, there's a lot of compelling parts to his game. The Raptors could use a developmental big. And yeah, I mean, Edie, it's one of those things where you're playing Russian roulette. I really think with Edie, it's going to be either complete bust or he's going to be that guy who really booms and really surprises a lot of people. I really think it's going to be that type of story with Edie. So again, Bleacher Report has Edie to the Raptors. A lot of people like the idea of Edie coming home to the Raptors and number 19. And then Bleacher Report has Bobby Klintman, who I really like a lot with their number 31 pick. So that's another name that's been brought up a ton with the Raptors second round pick. Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype put out his recent mock draft, and he has the Raptors taking Yves Missy out of Baylor. This is a player that I like the Raptors taking a lot. He was one of my preferred draft selections. Yves Missy, he's one of arguably the best defensive anchor in the draft. And again, a young developmental big, and I really like his size. I think his defense really wins me over. And then, another name that has been linked to the Raptors as of late. Very interesting story. Go check it out if you haven't already. Enrique Freeman, along with many other teams, per Sarah Todd of Desert News, has interviewed with Toronto. So the Raptors, they have that number 31 pick. Could they use that to snag a player in Freeman who all of a sudden is getting a little bit of buzz? This is what one NBA scout said. He is without a doubt the ideal candidate for a two-way contract, but I wouldn't be shocked if he gets picked and gets a standard deal. He plays with so much joy and so much determination. His defense alone should earn him an extra look. So that is a name that has been coming up. CBS Sports put out their latest mock draft. They have Collier. That's a guy who I'm very inclined on as well. I think Collier could end up being a huge steal of this draft if he were to fall to 19. I think the Raptors have to take Collier if he's still on the board at that time. And then another intriguing big who I like more than Edie and number 19 is Kel'el Ware out of Indiana. You look at Ware, guys. He had a really good NBA pre-draft workout with the Blazers per pegs.com, and Ware has more workouts scheduled among those teams, the Toronto Raptors. So the Raptors are going to be working out Kel'el Ware out of Indiana. And you look at Ware, he went from averaging 6.6 points to 15.9. He went from Oregon to Indiana, and really in Indiana had a nice season, 15.9 points. He went from 4.1 to 9.9 rebounds, 1.3 to 1.9 blocks, 53.4% to 60.9% on twos, and 27.3% to 42.5% on threes. That's a huge jump in all of those categories. He saw a leap in college. He's listed at 6'11" with those shoes, with a 7'4" wingspan, high-level athlete, great size. He's got really good length, able to protect the rim. I really like Kel'el Ware, and I think this would be right now one of my favorite selections at the time of this recording. He shot it very well from three, granted on low volume, but he's proving that he's got that skill set. Nice footwork, touch around the basket. He's got elite athleticism. He's got really nice high upside, and he would make for a compelling prospect. So, obviously he's got some things he's got to work on, notably his strength going up against bigger NBA bodies that he's going to be battling down low with. And he needs to be, a better switch defender on defense. But there's a lot to like about Kel'el Ware. So this is another young big who the Raptors can develop. And I think the Raptors need a developmental big. You look at, one of their needs. That's one of their main needs. Obviously, unfortunate what happened with Koloko. Precious Achiuwa never panned out the way that you would have hoped during his time with the Raptors. The Raptors, they need a young big prospect. Obviously, they got, Olynyk, they got Pirtle, but these guys are veterans. These guys are not, quote unquote, a part of the long-term plan. You need a young center. So the Raptors could definitely look to that here. Maybe it's Edie. Maybe the Raptors are huge fans of Edie and they do take a chance on him. But like I said, there's other guys who I would prefer over Edie in this spot. I would take Missy and Kel'el Ware when looking at big men at number 19 over Zach Edey. That's just me. So, yeah, we'll see. Obviously, the Raptors are going to be drafting, looking to get the best player, thinking about, who's a good piece to add into the young core, to add in besides Scotty, who's now the face of the franchise. So there's a lot of different ways I think the Raptors can go with this year's draft. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Number 19, number 31, the Raptors, they're just, in a position now where they just got to add talent. And they got to hope that one of these picks, best case scenario, both pan out, because the Raptors, they're going to have to catch a break. And, they're going to have to find a diamond in the rough, I think, in this year's draft. And hopefully it comes at number 19. And hopefully it could be a really good catch for this team. So let me know who are some of your preferred draft targets, guys, at number 19 and number 31 as of today. Let me know your thoughts down below, guys. And that's going to conclude today's podcast. Again, thank you so much for watching or listening. You can rate this podcast 5 stars wherever you get your podcast, Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. It would be greatly appreciated if you do that. Again, drop a like on the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel. All of that helps. We're going to have a lot more content coming for all of you as we get closer to the draft. And then we'll find out how things go down. But that is it for me, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on X at Luca Rosano 3. Until next time, stay safe.